This is big breaking emergency news. New York State has now issued a health alert, and their health authorities are now issuing warnings for the quote MPOX. Right? That is what's happening right now in the US. New York authorities are telling people to take preventative measures and get ready for the situation to potentially get worse. All right, so let's dive into the details here really quick, guys. Please just hit it up for me down there. Hit that like, hit that subscribe. I'm posting multiple videos a day, keeping you guys updated on all this big urgent news. All right, so this is a big development. We are now getting warnings directly from health authorities inside the US to be on high alert for this stuff, right? And we're getting a warning from the state health commissioner, Dr. James McDonald, out of New York. And this sounds very familiar, guys. Everyone needs to be ready and stand firm, stand strong for what's coming next, because this sounds very familiar. This sounds like a similar story like we've seen before. Okay, things starting overseas, emergencies being declared, travel restrictions. I made a whole video on that a couple days ago, how China is implementing travel restrictions, Egypt is implementing travel restrictions, the EU health authorities are telling countries to implement travel restrictions and be on high alert. They're doing screenings, they're setting up quarantine zones. All these things are going on, and now the New York health authorities are issuing an alert too, right? Sounds very familiar. And then it's like, oh, now New York's on high alert. Maybe something's going to happen here. And they're telling people to take measures, right? So everyone be ready, be prepared for what comes next, and stand firm, stand strong, stand steady. All right, so this is what we were just warned from the New York Health Department, right? We just had this emergency declared, and now they're coming out saying this, quote, this is from the State Health Commissioner, Dr. James McDonald, quote, we remain vigilant and are closely monitoring the spread of the Clade 1 MPOX variants, aka the monkeypox, right? That's what it was formerly known as. They changed the name recently, right? That is currently circulating in countries in Africa, right? So he says we remain vigilant and are closely monitoring the spread of this that's currently circulating in countries in Africa. And while there are currently no known cases of this variant in the US, we are taking proactive measures now to encourage those at risk to get fully, you know what, to get the shots for this, fully to get the shots, which means 2 doses of the Jynneos one, Jynneos. I'm not sure, Jynneos. Not sure how to pronounce this, but that is what the state's health commissioner is warning of. He says, we are taking proactive measures to encourage those at risk to get fully inoculated. And he's saying that means 2 doses of this. This is already starting, guys. It's starting. It's starting right now. And they're rolling this out. Okay? They've also authorized emergency use authorization, the WHOAS. They are allowing companies to submit medications to be used and to be approved for, quote, emergency use authorization by the WHO as well, right? And they actually already have approved many of these shots, have already been approved and are in production right now in the US and overseas, right? These pharmaceutical companies are already producing them, and they already have millions of doses ready to go. Okay, so everyone needs to be ready and prepared and on high alert for what comes next. We could see them escalate this going into the end of the year. Right? We could see more regulations, more clampdowns, more restrictions potentially going into the end of the year. And we're going to potentially see these places pop up to get these procedures done. Right? Like we saw before, we saw you could go in your car to go get testing and get these medications, these medical procedures done. You could get it all. You could drive right up. We saw entire stadiums. People drive up in the parking lots and just do it all right there. We could start seeing that potentially happen in certain states like New York, right? It seems like they're getting ready for this rollout to start giving people mass medications for this, okay? So that's the warning from the state health commissioner from New York. They're issuing this health alert. And he is saying there is even, quote, no known cases of this variant in the U.S., but he is taking proactive measures to encourage those at risk to fully get it, which means 2 doses. And he's saying of this specific one, too, the Gen Neos, however you pronounce it. What's going on here, guys? What's going on here? Someone needs to check this guy's stock portfolio, okay? I don't want to laugh here, but someone needs to check this, guys. This is like a very specific thing. And this is just a joke, right? Disclaimer here, but maybe you might want to buy some stocks of this company, right? I'm not even no involvement or anything like that, but warning, the stock might go up. This Jynneos, Jynneos. And this health commissioner might have a lot of these stocks. And they might be going up very soon. They might be doubling or tripling, which is just insane, right? Insane. But I'm just telling you what's going on behind the scenes too, probably. Because all these other pharmaceutical stocks have 200% in the past week or two. Since this health emergency has been declared, they've been skyrocketing. They're going back up. All right, they're about to go back up if this continues. So be on the lookout for that too. Is they have these stocks, right? And that's why they promote certain things. They mandate certain ones. It's kind of like they know exactly how much money they're going to make from it, right? And just a warning, right? If you're in the stock market, this might be a good stock to grab. Just saying. So make sure you guys are getting prepared. Stand firm and strong for what is coming next. We could see a lot. This has already been declared by the WHO, okay? And the U.S. has a quasi-treaty with the WHO. It hasn't been 100% ratified, but they have this treaty that they've been working on for years, okay? And you remember just a couple months ago, they were trying to ratify it. They didn't 100% ratify it, but the majority of countries quasi-signed onto it and just said, we're going to do this anyways. And that's the directive right now, okay? So part of that treaty as well is that the WHO will be in control through, quote, equity means of things like medications as well too. So if there is something serious going on and there is some type of life-saving medication, they could come out and they could say, wait a minute, the United States only gets X amount of doses for this. They only get, 10,000 doses. We have to give these other 10,000 doses to this other country that's more equitable, right? You've heard this term before. And that term was in the treaty a lot, right? And they were talking about the supply chain a bunch. That was like half the treaty is just talking about all about the supply chain, how the WHO and the UN are going to have to oversee the supply chain during one of these global health emergencies to make sure everyone's getting the resources they need and it's not unfair. Like countries like the US, like we're using up too many resources or anything. Even if we're the ones paying for it, we're buying all of it, we're producing it or paying for it or whatever, they will be the final decider to say, look, doesn't matter if you paid for this, you designed this medicine or whatever it is. They're going to say this other country needs more doses. It doesn't even matter if they can't afford it or anything like that, or they're going to say they need it more. Okay, so that's a major power they're going to have, is taking over the supply chain. And they were even potentially even talking about things like energy as well. They were talking about the entire supply chain during a global crisis like this could be altered by these bodies. And they could even say, look, you have like energy prices are too high here, or we need to send more resources here, right? There's limited resources right now, and we're going to send them over here instead of your country, right? That's what this is all about. And it gives them a lot of power and control over what actually happens, right? Because that's what actually matters. If there ever is something, if there ever is a real emergency like this, right? And they said there's only around 900 to 1,000 people, according to a WHO report released. It said in June there was only 900 to 1,000 people in the entire world that had this. So let me know what you guys think of that number, right? I don't know. Seems there's 8 billion people in the world, and this seems like a lot of commotion. But if there is something, a real threat that ever happens, something that really gets to a point where it's like, all right, guys, I'm actually kind of worried about this. This might be something big. Then we might not be able to actually get the real antidote, the real medicine, right? There might actually be something in the future that actually is a real threat. It has like a 30% death rate or something along these lines. That's just like very dangerous to actually be around, okay? And we can't get the medication here. We can't get it here because the supply chain for that stuff is being controlled and manipulated. So that's another thing to think about as well too. All right, so thank you guys. Hope you guys are getting prepared and getting ready. Please hit it up for me down there to help get this warning out so people know, right? The New York State health authorities are saying this. They're saying to go get your stuff right now. Sounds familiar. It's starting in New York again. New York was kind of like the epicenter of all this stuff in 2020. It was all the hype, all the news was around New York. Okay, they were sending ships in there. You remember that, those medical ships that all went to New York and they were never even used. You remember that? It was kind of weird. It's kind of weird, a little strange. I'll say that, to say the least. But you remember those giant med ships? They had big crosses on them. Massive. We never see these things. And there were a bunch of them sent into the harbor right outside of New York City. And none of them were even used for these medical hospitals. That's what they were supposedly for. So we could see events like this happen again going into the end of the year. So stay vigilant, stay prepared. I hope you guys have big blessings for your life, for your family, and I hope you have a big old blessed day.